What's up YouTube, it's your boy JP's on the keys, and there's two easy about in the video today, and we are going to finish History of Russia Part 4.
(1825). Victory over Napoleon had confirmed Russia's status as a world power. But there was discontent within Russia amongst intellectuals and army officers, some of whom had formed secret societies to plot the overthrow of Russia's autocratic system.
They formed their own Illuminatis.
When Emperor Alexander was succeeded, not as expected by his brother Constantine, but by a younger brother Nicholas, one of these secret societies used the confusion to launch a military coup. But the Decembrist revolt, as it became known, was defeated by loyalist troops, and the ringleaders were hanged. Others were sent into internal exile in Siberia. This was to become a common sentence for criminals and political prisoners in Tsarist Russia.
They send you to Siberia, cold Siberia, cold. Well, it ain't just cold; it's cold, minus temperatures in the negatives. Wind chill pushed it down even further. Lord, I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
Nicholas went on to adopt an official doctrine of orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationality. The state was to rest on the pillars of church, Tsar, and the Russian national spirit, a clear rejection of the values of European liberalism. In the Caucasus, border clashes with Persia led to a war which ended in complete Russian victory. The Treaty of Turkmenchai forced Persia to cede all its territories in the region to Russia and pay a large indemnity. Russian support for Greece in its war of independence against the Ottomans led to war between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Russian victory brought further gains in the Black Sea region. A Polish revolt, led by young army officers, was crushed by Russian troops. Alexander Pushkin, Russia's greatest poet, was shot in a duel, and 2 days later died from his wounds. Nicholas sent troops to help put down a Hungarian revolt against Austrian rule. The emperor's willingness to help suppress liberal revolts won him the nickname the gendarme, or policeman of Europe. Russia's first major railway was opened, connecting St. Petersburg and Moscow. Alexander Herzen, a leading intellectual critic of Russia's autocracy, emigrated to London, where he continued to call for reform in his homeland. He'd later be described as the father of Russian socialism. The Ottoman Empire, now known as the sick man of Europe, reacted to further Russian provocations by declaring war. The Russian Black Sea Fleet inflicted a crushing defeat on the Turks at the Battle of Sinope. But Britain and France, alarmed at Russia's southern expansion and potential control of Constantinople, declared war on Russia. The Allies landed troops in Crimea and besieged the naval base of Sevastopol, which fell after a grueling year-long siege. In the Baltic, British and French warships blockaded the Russian capital, St. Petersburg. Russia was forced to sign a humiliating peace, withdraw its forces from the Black Sea, and put on hold plans for further southern expansion.
That's got to be terrible. You as a country, you're bigger than all these other countries combined. Like, you can fit 3 or 4 Frances and 3 or 4 Great Britons inside of Russia, but yet they applying that pressure And Russia was like, hey, we don't want that smoke. Hey, we'll surrender.
Nicholas I was succeeded by his son, Alexander II. The Crimean War had exposed Russia's weakness. The country lagged far behind its European rivals in industry, infrastructure, and military power. So Alexander, unlike his father, decided to embrace reform. The most obvious sign of Russia's backwardness was serfdom. According to the 1857 census, more than a third of Russians were serfs, forced to work their master's land with few rights, restrictions on movement, and their status passed down to their children.
So basically, indentured servitude. That's basically what it is, but just like you're just lifetime indentured servants. Like because you know what I think they said before in America with the indentured servitude it was 7 years, but this is life. It's not slavery, but it's indentured servitude.
They were slaves in all but name.
Yeah.
In 1860,
Not really. I mean, they weren't getting whipped. Oh, I'm pretty sure they weren't getting whipped on whipping posts, and I'm pretty sure they didn't put apparatus like weird metal things or metal collars around their neck so they couldn't escape. I don't think it was like that type of slavery. Maybe it was a different type. Maybe.
61, Alexander II abolished serfdom in Russia. He was hailed as the liberator. But in reality, most former serfs remained trapped in servitude and poverty. Alexander's reforms would continue with the creation of the zemstva, provincial assemblies with authority over local affairs, including education and social welfare. In the Far East, Russia forced territorial concessions from a weakened China, leading to the founding of Vladivostok, Russia's major Pacific port. Another uprising by Poles and Lithuanians against Russian rule was once more crushed by the Russian army. In the Caucasus, Russia's long and brutal war against local tribes came to an end, with their leaders swearing oaths of loyalty to the Tsar. In Central Asia, the Russian Empire was gradually expanding southwards. Russian armies defeated the Emirate of Bukhara and the Khanate of Khiva, and by the 1880s, Russia had conquered most of what was then called Turkestan, today the countries of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan.
All these stands. What is it? What are we? Eminem fans? Like, let me stop. Just forget that I said that. Just leave me be.
Imperial rivalry in Central Asia between Russia and Britain led to the Great Game, a 19th century version of the Cold War. Centered on Afghanistan, diplomats and spies on both sides tried to win local support, extend their own influence, and limit the expansion of their rival, while avoiding direct military confrontation.
So this is basically what the Cold War was just a very, 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 very long reconnaissance mission. A very long recon. You go in there, you get information on the enemy, you don't attack them in any way, you don't do anything, you just go in there and you get information and you get out. This is just one long recon mission.
Russia decided to sell Alaska to America for $7.2 million. Many Americans thought it was a waste of money. Gold and oil were only discovered there much later. Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace was published, still regarded as one of the world's greatest works of literature. The late 19th century was a cultural golden age for Russia, a period of literary greats and outstanding composers. Russia, in support of nationalist revolts in the Balkans against Ottoman rule, went to war with the Ottoman Empire once more. Russian troops crossed the Danube, then, with Bulgarian help, fought to secure the vital Shipka Pass. Then they launched a bloody 5-month siege of Plevna in Bulgaria. Russia and her allies finally won victory, with their troops threatening Constantinople itself. But at the Congress of Berlin, Russia bowed to international pressure and accepted limited gains, in a settlement that also led to independence for Romania, Serbia, Montenegro, and later Bulgaria. Meanwhile, within Russia, radical political groups were increasingly frustrated by Alexander II's limited reforms. There were several failed attempts to assassinate the emperor, but as he prepared to approve new constitutional reforms, he was killed in St. Petersburg by a bomb thrown by members of the People's Will, one of the world's first modern terrorist groups.
They just bombing dudes, that's crazy.
This act of violence would lead only to a new era of repression. Did you know all Epic History TV videos are made?
Okay. So basically killing him was the worst thing you could have done. But I definitely like the way it ended. It was like switched. I like the way it just kept going to the timeline. And like I said, the fact that serfdom, I've heard about serfdom. To me, serfdom is basically like indentured servitude, but just lifetime indentured servitude. Like you have to be on call for more than seven days a week or something, 7 hours a day or something like that. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. Don't forget to share the video wherever you share videos at. Thank you again, please. I'm out. Peace.